Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me again today. I'm Farzana from SF Digital, and today I'll be presenting on managing your mindset. For those of you that are new to our channel, please do join us today and engage with us. Feel free to make any comments in the boxes on YouTube in particular, and of course those of you are regular, thank you once again for joining us today. I know how precious your time is, and it means a lot to me that you are here today. So I'm going to be talking about managing your mindset, and in particular it's really been hard for so many of us to stay positive in these particularly challenging times that we've all are still going through actually, and so I'm going to just explore a little bit on this wet and dreary afternoon in England, and just hopefully bring you a little bit of positivity and motivation as to how we can think about ourselves and change our behaviours to actually become a lot more positive, optimistic, and generally achieve what we want to achieve in our lives. So, a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. As the name suggests, a fixed mindset is a very rigid, fixed, static place. If you like, a conservative way of looking at things and being very set in your ways. And the assumption that actually your intelligence is pretty much fixed and that you can't actually do much about your situation through just thinking it through. And of course the opposite of that is a growth mindset. So it's having that flexibility and wanting to actually learn new things and appreciating that just because you can't do something right now, it just means you haven't got all the tools in place to be able to do that thing. And it just is a case of you can't quite do it yet, but with perseverance and education and learning, you will get there. So just a quick definition. Psychologist Carol Dweck, who's a leading psychologist in this field, they've made a little reference there to one of her books, which is The New Psychology of Success. To have a growth mindset, we've got to believe that we can rely on our intelligence, our creative abilities, and our character to actually help make things much better for ourselves and make some big improvements in really meaningful ways. And we can learn to get better at what we do rather than just being fixed in our mindset. And this is, again, as I've just said, we can't do it yet. We can't do something just now, but we will get there with perseverance and learning. So we're going to take a little moment and reflect on ourselves. And if you're with me right now, just take a pause for a moment, and I'm going to take you through some of the things that affect our mindset, become our habits, and if we're not careful, keeps us stuck in that rut. And I'm just going to go through, for example, challenges. Are you a person that looks at a challenge as something that's to be avoided, negative, and just not something that you're willing to explore? Or are you more willing to accept that a challenge is just another opportunity to find a solution to that challenge and that you will find your way out? I think none of us need to be reminded that we've probably all had challenges beyond our dreams the last few weeks and months. And how we've approached those challenges is probably very indicative of our mindset as to whether we are a fixed mindset or whether we're willing to take on a more of a growth mindset approach to our problems. How about obstacles? Is that something that, again, you try and avoid and don't really want to accept and find them as real blocks? Or is that something, again, that you're willing to explore and see that you can actually find a different way of approaching that obstacle and getting your way around it or over it or under it, whatever it may be, to actually bypass that obstacle and move forward again in your lives? Then we come to effort. So some people would probably say, if they're of a fixed mindset, that can't be bothered, it's not worth my effort to actually put so much time and energy into this. I'm just going to avoid the whole situation and don't see the value in placing effort into anything. Whereas a growth mindset will probably consider that actually this effort that I put into it is probably the steps I need to take to actually master what I am trying to achieve. And it's the first steps of becoming a mastermind in your field or in your work or in your life. And so that effort is actually rewarded later on. And we come to criticism. Is it something that you automatically assume is negative? If you've got a fixed mindset, you'll automatically probably take it as quite personal and not want to actually realize that perhaps if you reframe that as constructive criticism, or indeed constructive feedback, you could actually learn some valuable lessons in what somebody's actually telling you or has written about you. And it doesn't automatically mean that you need to take it quite so personally. So take the lesson that is coming through. And sometimes actually it's actually quite hard to ask for feedback because you're probably scared of the answer. You might be pleasantly surprised when you do actually ask, that somebody will come forward and say, well, actually, you did a great job. And actually, these are the things you could be improving on. Reminds you of the children. They're at their lower school, their school up to the age of 9, 10 years old. We would get regular homework updates, and we'd get these WWWs, which stood for what went well. And there would be a little comment from the teacher. And then we'd get another abbreviation, which would be even better if, EBI. And then that would have the growth side of things, of what you could be doing to add to your skill set and what could be an improvement for the future. And because it was framed in that way of what went well and even better if, the language is positive and it's encouraging, as opposed to feeling very negative and crushing, obviously a young child with comments from the teacher. And I always found that really useful, and it's something I actually use in my working life, whether it's with colleagues or with my peers or within my networking groups. It's something I joke about EBIs and what went wells. And also, finally, the success of others. How you react to other people's success is, again, an indicator of probably your mindset. If you feel threatened by other people's success, or you feel that you've got to be in competition with somebody else, then you're probably very rigid in your mindset, because you're not actually seeing that that person that you are comparing yourself to could actually be a mentor or an inspiration or a person who's already been through it. So you can learn those valuable lessons from their learnings. And so you can reframe, again, that success of others situation to actually help you. So one of my other hats is that I am actually the mayor of my local town, and it's very difficult for others to perhaps compare that could they be doing what I do in my other hat. And the answer is yes, because if I can do it, the next person can do it. There is nothing stopping anyone achieving whatever they want to achieve, what's important to them. I don't actually see that hat as a success. I see that as my way of working in my community and reaching out my message through bringing everyone together and creating a sense of unity through community. And for me, it's not something I use as something to put on my CV. Somebody did say to me last week, oh, that's a very nice thing to put on your CV. And I think, I've not really considered that. That's not why I'm doing what I'm doing. So again, thinking about people's success and how you can use that as an inspiration for yourself is really, really important. So we are coming along to check the slides. Here we go. So how can you develop and maintain a positive mindset, especially this year? I mean, this has been a huge wake-up call for all of us, and rather than looking for the solution externally, many of us have probably realized that the solution is actually internal. How we react and how we behave, how we frame things has had a huge impact on how we have managed over recent months. Now, one of my favorites probably, which is why I've started with this one, is surround yourself with positive influences. And that's tricky. I mean this in a metaphorical way, because clearly we cannot mingle with anyone, and so we cannot actually physically surround ourselves with good energy and positive influences. What I mean is your support networks, they should be positive. Your social media, let that be positive. a little story for you. So about 3 weeks ago, I came out of a particular WhatsApp group. It's a school mums group, and I was in the middle of some work, and I came back, and after an hour there were 120 messages, and a quick scroll showed that there was actually probably nothing of any meaningful usefulness in the middle of a working day, and it was actually very, very draining. I find those kinds of interruptions to my day quite draining, because it's distracting me from something constructive, and it's now putting me into a tailspin about a whole conversational thread that isn't actually going anywhere. And I actually came out of the group. The funny side of that is that, probably about a month on now, I don't think many have even noticed I've even left the group, because they're still engaged in those long chat threads which are just going nowhere. And what's been very liberating is that all that white noise has just gone from that particular group, and you can focus and keep your head clear for the things that really matter. I often share with friends that when you're finding yourself, being pulled into other people's dramas and other people's conversations, and measuring yourself as to what's right, what's wrong, I got criticized for, actually stop. Just stop for a moment and think about the 5 most important people or groups that are around you. I classify my children as one group, because obviously there are 3 individuals in our family, so they would take up 3 spots. So I count them as one. But the other 4, who are they? Who are those people that always have your back, that enrich your life, that always pick you up and make you feel good? They're the people where you can be yourself, your true self, and hopefully you are the same support back to them. And that close-knit community, if you like, around yourself, they're the ones to really focus on. The rest are like ripples in a pond. They're further out. Those circles are further out. They don't influence you at the center. So keep your center really grounded and keep that positive. My next top tip for resilience and maintaining a positive mindset is to change your habits to change your outcomes. We all know the definition of insanity. If you do the same thing, you must expect the same outcome. And it's important that you start to think about your own habits. So over the last 8 months, we as a business and me as a person, we've been incredibly busy for a variety of reasons. Yes, we've had to, like everyone else, take stock of all the COVID measures that have come in, the day-to-day practicalities of what's going on. Are we in lockdown? Are we not? At the moment, we're back in lockdown. These are all practical elements that affect your day and your life and your mindset and your motivation. But there's also the deeper side of things, of how you're actually going to manage that. And so even though it would be very easy to stay fixed in my old habits of how I've always done things and perhaps my natural place of comfort, it's become important to make some small changes. And so, for example, for me, I've started to walk a lot more regularly. Not something that I normally naturally enjoy. I'm not a physical sports person. It's not something I crave. I envy those that enjoy that, because it's not something that sits well with me. It's just not my personality. However, for me to start enjoying walking, I've had to do things to help my back, because one of the reasons I don't enjoy walking is that I always get very bad lower backache. But by making a small change in my lifestyle and sharing with you here, losing a little bit of weight has improved my back, which has meant that I'm now able to walk. And so those benefits, by making a small habit change of building walking into my routine, has now helped me, because it allows me to clear the brain, get some fresh air, actually process what's going on. And instead of being busy in front of a computer all day long and then dealing with family issues, I actually get that time to myself to actually enjoy the simple act of walking. So it doesn't have to be a drastic change. Some days I fail, but through failure we learn, and that's the lesson that, okay, that's fine. Today I didn't quite manage as many steps as I wanted to. Tomorrow's another day. And you put that down to experience. So think about which habits you could be changing that are actually quite destructive to you, and see how you can reframe those to make sure that you can change those long-term outcomes. From a business perspective, some of the habits that we have changed is we would often, because we are so busy, get from one week to the next wondering how we managed to get through to the end of the week when there was so much going on. But of course that would mean that we perhaps hadn't planned the following week as well as we probably could have. So a small change we made was to introduce weekly meetings, and that was working really well, one of those WWW moments. But then we discovered an even better if we start to meet up daily. And so now, or as of the last few weeks, we are now meeting daily, not for very long, it's only 10 or 15 minutes, but that has helped us all to actually be more productive. Because the negative mindset would say, well, you're pausing every day for 10 or 15 minutes. That's over an hour over the course of the week. What a waste of time for the whole team to join this call, because they could be getting on with some work. But actually, that's increased our productivity and efficiency, because we can iron out all the niggles together in one call. We don't have to have many interruptions in the day, relaying the same message across whichever platform we're using to get messages across. We can just deal with it then and there, face to face, or almost face to face. And so we've actually, that 1 hour collectively over the course of a week is probably our most productive, powerful hour, which we will not be losing. We will continue with that process. So again, that as a business way is a habit we've had to make, that it's a non-negotiable. 10 o'clock every day we are on there. We don't miss it. We don't move it. We don't start sending messages. Can you meet half an hour later? I've got a meeting. This is already in the diary. The meetings will have to fit around this rather than the other way around. So it's about making those habits and being true to those habits and respecting them. A bit like being on this live. It's a commitment that's been made. We are here. I'm here on a Friday, 4 o'clock. I've got to do it. So it's not a case of, well, I'll get somebody else. I'll get Uzair, my husband, to step in and he can do the Friday for me. I can't be bothered, or don't want to do it. It's a habit now. I know that Friday I've got to be ready. I've got to make sure I'm here, organised, dealt with everything I need to deal with, because I know I'm going live. So another tip that I have is to reframe and change your perspective. And I've got a couple of little examples for you. So first of all, literally physically move, because saying slumped in your same position if you're working at a desk all day long is actually very, very counterproductive to your mental state, motivation in general. And so I would really encourage you to move. As I've just said, for me, that has now become a bit of a walk, even if it's only a short walk. For some people, if you're in full lockdown, I appreciate that even getting out for a walk is impossible, because you're not allowed to do it perhaps. But actually, even within your space, whether that's your office space or in your home, there are ways of reframing to make sure that you can actually re-energize yourself and your area, your physical area. For example, I'll give you the example of our son, who is trapped because of lockdown. We've not seen him for just about 4 months now, actually. And he's studying at university, and he's finding it very difficult to stay motivated, because all the lessons are now online, all the lectures are online, and it's really, really difficult to get into the mode of essay writing. And he was telling me about a week ago, I seem to be really behind. And of course, as a mum, the first question is, well, you're home all the time. You can't really be behind. You're not doing anything else. So what's really going on? Well, I'm finding it really hard to just get motivated and get started. I'm finding that really difficult. And so I suggested to him, right, you've got a big enough room, move your desk, change the position where that desk is. And he said, oh, really? I said, absolutely, because you will find that is going to just re-energize you, give you a different sense of perspective, literally, of where you're looking. the light falls from a different direction because you've moved away from the window, or you're not distracted by the people walking by the window, whatever it might be. It will give you a different perspective and it will feel like a fresh place. And something I normally do when I walk into regular meetings and biggish meetings where if it's a regular meeting, you'll find if you work in a big office, people tend to gravitate to a sort of inverted commas favorite spot that they go and sit in. It's always that side of the room or the third chair in from the left. They'll tend to go to that. And actually, I find it fascinating to sit in a different place. Certain meetings I go to, which are very, very regular, I deliberately sit in a different place. And it's amazing how it really does change, literally, the perspective that you're getting, and the energy changes. And if you feel confident and not thrown by the fact that you're sitting in a different place, it's actually quite exciting and exhilarating, because you can actually see how you changing your perspective, it almost slightly creates a different energy in the room, because those that are fixed and want to have that habit of where they're going to sit every time, it really does change the game a little bit. So it can be a lot of fun. So next time you're going into a big meeting, try it and see what result you get. Something again, which is a daily habit for me, is to take time each day just to reflect on any of the good news and the outcomes that have been positive for you, and express that gratitude. And by that I mean is express it to, if you're religious, express it to God, whatever you believe in. Express it to the universe, that the universe has your back and that you are here and you have done well. Express it to the person that has caused you to feel that gratitude. Tell them, because there's nothing more uplifting than actually getting that positive message from someone. And don't forget the most important one, yourself. Don't forget to express gratitude to yourself for allowing yourself to do some good work. You've done it well, you've done it to the best of your ability. You may not have done everything you had planned to do today, but it doesn't matter. Tomorrow is another day and we can pick up again. Nothing is going to run away. And thank yourself for the good things you have done, as opposed to where most people are, which is where they start to self-criticize all the many things they haven't done, all the things that they feel they didn't do very well. Really, really important to express gratitude and stay in that zone of the good news, because again, in this world we live in, where we are bombarded with bad news, bad stories, horrible things happening around the world, or perhaps in your local area, it can be really easy to get caught into that spiral and cause yourself worry and anxiety and bring you down. I'm not saying that you ignore those things. It's important to stay connected with the real world. It's not a rose-tinted view of the world, but equally the things that you know spark your energy in a bad way are things probably that you think, I can live without those. I can actually celebrate the good and not worry so much about all the other things that could be going on. And this one, as I was writing this, brought a little smile to my face because it reminded me of a story. So celebrate your personality and who you are and make those your strengths. And what comes to my mind is something I watched probably about 20 years ago on TV, which was a particular professor who was studying child development and growth and what happens. And he was giving the scenario of, as a parent, when we have a child that is loud and boisterous and always in the thick of things, running around outside, we spend our whole time telling that child, oh, I wish you'd just sit still for a while, and why are you always running around outside? Can't you just sit in the corner with a book? Just don't do that all the time. It's really, really irritating, whatever it might be triggering in you. And when we have a child that likes to curl up with a book and is quite happy in their imaginary world, doesn't want to be outside and wants to just stay in their room, quite happy and content in a calm atmosphere, parent will jump in there and say, oh, I wish you'd put that book down occasionally, and why don't you think about going outside and playing a bit of football or running around? And that is no more pleasurable for that child to hear that they need to change their personality and do the very opposite to where their natural comfort zone is, to how we feel about our personalities if somebody came and told us to do something. I've already said that big sports and exercise is not really my thing. So if somebody said, oh, well, why don't you think about running a marathon? I can't think of anything worse. But if somebody said to me, why don't you do a mini retreat, a wellness retreat, I'd be straight in there. So it's about celebrating who you really are and understanding who you are. If you are a natural introvert and quite content in your environment, you probably got a few brownie points at the moment because you've got a head start on what we're all having to do. If you are the other end of the spectrum, a full-on extrovert, of course, that's brought its challenges right now. But then take that time to think, well, actually, I say I'm a natural extrovert. Perhaps I have neglected looking at my own company and how I can enjoy that and how I can actually celebrate that. So think about where you really are and think about how you make those your strengths rather than worrying about the things that could be perceived or you have framed in your own mind as being a weakness. So that would be my little tip there. And I've got a little bit of homework for everyone, for those that want to take part. And that is that, don't forget, to have a new mindset, a growth mindset, you need to actually make the first step. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And that's when you start to really see some results. So I would like everyone to just consider, what change are you going to make this weekend? Any one thing, any one small thing that you found yourself on an auto of just making, the story that you've told yourself that has now become fixed and rigid. Which little story can you stop telling yourself and actually reframe and break that habit, break that cycle of behavior that then leads to that fixed mindset? Let's see what you can do that will then give you that growth that you're after and take you to a better version of you, a more excellent version of you through a positive route. I hope you've enjoyed today's presentation. A little bit different to the normal. I just wanted to reach out to everyone really and just give you some positivity and motivation that actually we have everything we need within ourselves. We just need to think about how we're going to apply that and use those tools that we have in us, use our talents and our creativity to get the best out of ourselves. I'm going to take a quick look to see if there is anything at all in the comments thread. Bear with me. There is a lag, but I think we are good. So I think we're good to go. So with that, thank you so much for joining me today and giving me your precious time. Really do appreciate it. I hope you found something useful in what I presented today and that it gives you some food for thought as to how you can apply some of these tips to your life and to your business. And I wish you the very best. So enjoy your weekend and I will see you again same time next week, 4 p.m. UK time on a Friday. Thank you so much.